Yeah, we're not doctors or giving any medical advice. This show is intended for educational purposes only, and you should talk to your doctor about any medical issues. Now let's get at it.
Welcome to Chat the Fat, where nutrition authors Nissa Graun and TC Hale are going to break down common low-carb mistakes. Let's chat all things low-carb, keto, digestion, and more so you can maximize your results.
I originally met KellyRae in my Facebook group, Eating Fat is the New Skinny. Last fall, when I decided to bring back the 21-day Keto Challenge, she decided to go all in and compete against other challengers for big prizes and even bigger results. KellyRae is a single mom of a teenage daughter. She's a mindset coach who helps others clear up limiting beliefs, self-doubt, and other blockages, as well as a massage therapist who specializes in injury management and preventative care. Like many of us, her weight loss struggles began early on, and she continued to follow countless diets with little permanent success. Now she's using keto to cut through years of struggle and form a lifestyle that she loves. So welcome to Chat the Fat, KellyRae.
Yay!
So excited that you're here and that you agreed to do a podcast. So I guess let's just jump right into the interview. So for a lot of women who struggle, weight loss has definitely been a lifelong struggle. So how far back does your story go? Where did you start out?
Oh my gosh, my story started out a very long time ago. But I think my first kind of awareness of it all would have been when I was in high school. And, just probably kids being kids, teasing and stuff like that. So I took a lot of that very personal of being overweight and all of that. So then it was on the journey of crazy dieting started then.
And was it just other kids in high school? Because I know growing up, my journey started really early, and it was my brothers that loved to tease me.
It wasn't, it was probably my mom. And, and no disrespect to her, but I know that she struggled with her weight her whole life as well. That I think that was a component that put in there her wanting to always do something, but it kind of rubbed off on me, I guess. And so then oh my gosh, I got to do something too.
Yeah, I think that happens to a lot of people. I remember when I first found out or figured out that I was heavier than the other girls. This was back in the 80s, and my mom would help me count fat grams in the potato chips I ate because we wanted to limit our fat in order to lose weight. And I think she only knew to count fat grams because she never really struggled hardcore with her weight, but she fell in with the women who wanted to lose a few pounds. So she definitely helped me out there even when I didn't want the help.
Nice.
So when you started back in high school, what kind of methods did you start out with?
Well, one was Weight Watchers. I mean, that was like the big thing in town was to do Weight Watchers, which was really interesting because, again, my mom and my aunt would do Weight Watchers, but theirs was more of a socialization type thing. So it was like, hey, we're going to Weight Watchers, and then they'd go to the meeting just so that they weren't telling a lie, and then they'd go to Bob Big Boy and have a hot fudge sundae or something afterwards. So when I was a teenager, that's kind of how mom wanted to keep that pattern is, yeah, we're letting dad know we're taking care of our weight. We'd go to the meeting, she'd have me go in and I'd come out, and then we'd go to Taco Bell. So that was the extent of, well, this is not working. So then I actually, because I had a lot of body shaming imaging around myself, I'd had some other things happen to me much younger that I had developed a lot of body shaming issues. And so I actually started purging, or what they would have back then called bulimia. So for me, that was how I felt like I could maintain my weight. And I couldn't. I got really, really sick. It compromised my immune system and all of that. So that was even just getting into the 80s. And then by the time the 80s came, it was like, oh my gosh, fat is horrible for you. That's what's making all of us fat. So let's go eat a lot of Entenmann's fat-free treats because those are probably healthy for you. And that became my journey of no fat, lots of carbs.
Before you hit that, how long were you following the binging and purging?
So I did that for a couple years.
Oh, wow.
Hmm.
Did that, I mean, I know a lot of girls go into that hoping to lose weight. Did that help you lose weight, or did that just make you sick?
No, it just made me sick. Yeah, because obviously my body was into starvation, and then of course you would get so hungry that you would eat, and then it was just a vicious cycle. There was too much going on emotionally that it was not doing anything for me physically besides making me sick.
Yeah, and not that I'm promoting anyone. The way I phrase that, I kind of promote it like, oh, did that help you lose weight? I didn't mean it like that.
Yeah, I'm still doing it.
It's not something that I've tried all the diets out there, and that's one thing, thankfully, that I've never fallen into. So I just was kind of curious, like, where your mind was with that.
Yeah, no, my mind was that of a 17-year-old that had a lot of shame about my physical body, that there was no way I was going to talk to anybody. And certainly going to Weight Watchers and then Taco Bell wasn't working either. I didn't have the foundation to understand nutrition and how it all processed in the body. So I would say that was not a successful plan.
What were they teaching you in Weight Watchers all the way back in the 80s?
So back then, it was calorie restriction, like eat low calorie. They didn't talk about carbs. They didn't talk about fat. They didn't talk about protein. It was more because you were this tall and you weighed this much and you were this old, you should eat this much food. And then you just went and you stood on a scale once a week and they gave you a star or mark in your little book whether you lost any weight or not. That was it. And then in the meetings, all they did was talk about food. So it was not ever being very helpful it just seemed like that was the whole process, was let's just think and talk about food, which didn't help the situation either.
It's interesting to see how it's changed over the years, because I've done my fair share of Weight Watchers. I never went to any in-person meetings. I was always an online customer. And I think I started probably when they started the point system. So that's when I did it. But it's interesting to see how they stick around. They just keep changing it. So I'm kind of sitting back waiting to see when they're going to start low carb or a keto Weight Watchers version. I mean, I think people would see better success. I don't think people should combine Weight Watchers and keto. That's kind of a plan for disaster, but I'm sure it won't be very long before they have a low carb Weight Watchers version.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're going to need to stay in the billion-dollar industry, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where people are getting results, by cutting their carbs. So as soon as Oprah catches on, I'm sure they'll be there.
Right.
Okay. So back to that, you said that after Weight Watchers, then you went to the low fat, and you struggled with that, obviously.
Yeah. So this is the time that I was also getting very much into physical activity. I was an aerobic instructor. Then I also lifted weights. So I was very physically active. So then I was in my mindset, again, because I wasn't real educated in all of this, was that I just thought, well, because I'm keeping my calories at a certain level, that if I then go hardcore exercise, because that's the other thing we were taught during this time period, is calories in, calories out. So obviously, even though I was eating high carb, no fat, very low fat, and not seeing any results, that perhaps I needed to exercise more. So then start that kind of crazy nonsense to extreme. And still, one thing I will say is our bodies are extremely resilient. So it held steadfast at that non-weight loss while I did all this madness to myself.
And you said that that's what you were being taught back then, and the 80s was more than 30 years ago, 40 if you go back to 1980. And we're still being taught that today, calories in versus calories out. And I thought keto was the one way to get away from that, but I see a lot of people teaching keto that are still teaching it's all about the calories. So that makes me sad.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So you did calories in and calories out for a while. Are there any other methods you tried along the way?
Yeah, then again, because you're feeling really, really desperate that, you're putting all of this effort in, and there's always something new coming out that can help you along your journey or help fix your problem. I guess it may have been the 90s. I'm trying to think, maybe it's late 80s, early 90s when Fen came on the market, and that was a prescription drug through the medical industry that was guaranteed to help you lose weight. You lost your lives. Some people did along the way. Thankfully, I didn't. But that was another thing too. The only thing that did for me was just make me not hungry. It didn't, and again, I was restricting my calories to begin with. So now I'm not hungry, which means I'm not even eating my low calorie stuff as often as I should, but I'm still exercising like a mad person because
Yeah. And
for many reasons. Then I left that, then started I've done Jenny Craig, they send you all the packaged foods. Then I started to just go low carb and low calorie
when did you,
about this time.
when was that?
That would have been probably started around the late 90s. And then in 2000, I was just strictly low calorie then. It wasn't a matter of proteins, carbs, any of that. It was strictly low calorie. Then I went to a bariatrics doctor who put me on liquid protein diet. And here's the interesting thing: of all of these ridiculous, crazy things that I've done, I've managed to lose inches on my body, just that the scale never changed. And so that really kind of messes with your mind a little bit when you're conditioned to, that's your measuring tool, is a scale. So the liquid diet thing did not work. The scale never changed. I've held steadfast at the same weight for a very, 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 very long time. And then after, I've even done HCG injections. It's a hormone that basically kind of sends you into the state of being pregnant. And then you eat a very low calorie, 400 to 500 calories a day. And I did that for almost a year with very little results.
And how did you feel while you were doing that? Because I have heard about that. I did think about trying that when nothing else was working. Thankfully, I didn't. But how did you feel?
Um, I had to significantly reduce the amount of exercise that I did because everything internally is being lowered. So, you had to be very mindful of your heart, that you couldn't, be on your cardio at your regular speed or anything, because it was then putting you at a higher risk. So that was not a good thing. I can't say that I felt tired. I felt irritated because it was, again, one of those things of, I'm following the letter of the law and it's not resulting in what I'm wanting to achieve.
Yeah, I remember that feeling when I was pregnant. I must have had really high HGC levels because I would get full. I would eat. I thought like pregnant women could just eat anything they wanted, and
Yeah.
it was a great time to eat. And I would have I got mad because I'd have like half what I usually eat, and I would be uncomfortably full.
Yeah.
So I definitely know what they're aiming for there. I did not lose weight while I was pregnant, so
Right.
I definitely gained a lot with both pregnancies. So I don't know if it works for some people. Although I do have a friend I recently chatted with, and she told me that she was struggling because she does the HGC at times. And she said that she just can't keep the weight off. Like she'll lose it with the HGC and then it comes back on. So I was trying to beg her to get off that and just give intermittent fasting a try with low carb. So hopefully she listens and does that because, yeah, who knows what that messing with your hormones like that is really doing to your body.
Well, and it's expensive, quite honestly. It's not an affordable plan to do for a lifetime.
It's expensive. It also has to be mentally tough because eating only 400 or 500 calories a day, even if you're full. Like sometimes people just mentally want that act of chewing or the act of, getting some comfort from food. Not that you should rely on food for comfort, but
No, but you're right. I mean, and there was a very strict set of foods that you could eat as well, too. So very, very restricting, which most people don't like to be restricted for a very long period of time. It's just not how we're humanly designed.
yeah, I know back in the day when I never went that low calorie, but even when I was doing like 12 or 1300 calories, like I was keeping calories that low. I wanted to eat what I wanted to eat. I didn't want to eat rabbit food.
Right?
Yeah, carrots and celery. So obviously that one didn't work out. Did you try anything else before finally stumbling upon low carb again?
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, does the list go on? So then around 2016, there one of the things that I recognize also in this industry or this lifestyle is there's a huge emotional component that goes along with it. It's not that we don't have willpower and all of those things. I still needed to deal with the body shaming that I was doing to myself. I needed to get past that mindset of why was I continuing to dislike my body and hate the way it looked based on things that happened to me earlier in life. So I needed to really get clear on that and work through that. And once I was able to release that, I was then able to get into low carb as opposed to low calorie. And that actually started to become much easier. One, because my mind was clear, and two, it just felt better. And then I started again seeing the normal pattern for me, which is lose inches and lose body fat percentage, but the scale stay the same, which I'm sorry, it still kind of F's with your mind. It really does.
Yeah, I think definitely people want to see the body fat percentage and the inches. I think that is really the most important overall goal. But I would think at some point, like you'd have to lose pounds on the scale, because it's great when you are gaining bone density and you're gaining muscle. And when that's the case, it's much better to lose inches and fat percentage. But at some point, the scale does have to go down. Like you're not putting on that much muscle.
Right. I mean, I'm not looking like a bodybuilder or anything like that. I mean, it's not happening. So then I had a girlfriend who earlier this year had told me that she started doing keto, and I'm like, I'm really interested because there's a lot of information out there, a lot of people talking about it. So she told me what she was doing, and so she told me of an app that she uses, which is different than the one that you shared, but similar. And so I set it all up, and of course I thought this thing is lying. It says I need to have all of this fat, which I'm no problem with the carb and the protein, but oh my God, no, this thing must be really seriously messed up. So although I kept in alignment with my carbs and my protein, I was not being mindful of the amount of fat, because again, that still same concept is still out there today of you have to watch your fats. That's the main thing.
Well, even with keto, there's a lot of people that say, as long as you keep your carbs low and you can eat whatever protein you want, you just still got to watch the fat. Like it's a high fat diet, but people will still tell you, and I'm not advocating that people shove as much fat as they can down, because that's not going to work either, but you still need to have a decent amount. Do you remember how much the app originally told you to eat?
Yeah, I think the app told me about 150, 100, between 100. Yeah, I think it was 150 is what it told me to
Yeah.
do. And I was like, oh no, I think I'll keep it about 90.
Yeah, and to me, 150 actually sounds pretty average. And there are a lot of other keto coaches out there that will steer you more towards the 90, and people just aren't getting results when they're keeping their fats so low because their bodies aren't able to tap into their stored fat because it's still not really enough to really affect your hormones enough to want to change.
Well, and it makes sense because if you think of the ratio components, if you're not changing whatever your carb and your protein is to the contrast of the fat, then you're still out of balance. I mean, I understand there's a mathematical equation that makes these three, if they're done correctly, work optimally for you.
Yeah, do you mean like if you're at 80% fat, 15% protein, 5% carbs? And that does work, but there's still some people that are calorie extremists that will still say, yes, you need to follow that, whatever it is, 80, 15, 5, but you need to keep the fats low. So basically they're just advocating for a low calorie, high fat diet, which with fat being so high in calories, that's pretty hard to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said that you had tried low carb in the past, which your history kind of sounds like mine. I think I tried ever since like the late 90s, and I would always come in and out of it. Like sometimes I would do it, I would get fed up with it, go back to just calorie counting. Um, so what made you decide to finally come back to it and start looking more at keto?
Again, because I got my mindset clear, I had this newfound way of wanting to live, being happy with my body and feeling good in my skin, but I wanted my skin and body to be a little bit more condensed than what it was, right? I was no longer being obsessed with being quote unquote fat. I was more wanting to be leaner and be in alignment with how I was feeling about myself. And so because I was seeing so many people get results on keto, but I still wasn't sure what it was. Again, it was mostly being told, oh, it's just high fat. That's all you need to know is you just need to eat a lot of fat, which that didn't make sense to me. So I found you on Facebook, and I don't even honestly recall how I found you, but I was so glad that I did because I got into your group, and right away, it impressed me the way that your answers that you gave to questions. I could tell that they were well thought out, well researched, and you added a personal component to it. So I knew that you weren't just telling me something that you'd read in books. I knew that you lived this. I could feel that. And that resonated with me. I wanted to learn from somebody who had walked it, talks it, and has fumbled through it, so that they could be a good example of how to help get through that. And that's how I came to find you.
And I definitely appreciate that because I have lived it. I lost more than 100 pounds because I've done it twice. I did it after each pregnancy. So I think it's like 155 total. And a lot of the people I've noticed that are telling people to eat the low-fat keto haven't lived it themselves. So they're looking at research studies and saying this is how it should work, but they haven't necessarily lost that weight. Like maybe they've lost 10 or 20 pounds and it worked for them. But I have noticed a lot of the people that are spreading the low-fat keto word, which hopefully is becoming less and less, are, like you said, the ones who haven't necessarily lived it. So I think having gone through it and seeing what works for me does give me that ability to help a lot of other people.
Yeah.
Not that I'm tooting my own horn here.
Yeah, but you should, I mean, those are things that work. And so, of course, I'm sure you're attracting people that resonate with you and what you have to offer. For me, you were somebody who was real. You were somebody who is genuine. And I know that, we live in a world where everything is online nowadays. So that even makes it a little bit more tumultuous of like, who do you trust? Who do you, where are you going to throw your money to or whatever? But there was something about you that just was so genuine that I was like, I get her, and I think she would get me too, to help me along my journey.
And that's interesting that you bring it up because that was actually my next question. There's so much keto information out there. So a lot of people just want to wing it and do it themselves. They want to go into these free groups and, just have other people help them. and, just not have to put in the money for a paid program, because the Keto Challenge, when I do run it, it's a 3-week challenge for $75, which can be pricey for a lot of people. So with so much free information out there, what made you decide to pay the money and actually get into the Keto Challenge?
So it was interesting because I know that in the Keto Challenge, it was the weight loss challenge, right? I mean, goal is to lose fat, but I understood that this is how we were doing it as a measuring. And I kind of laughed at my spontaneity of wanting to jump in, because I'm like, girl, you never lose 1 flippin' pound. And you're going to go now invest in this weight loss challenge? Are you out of your mind? And I'm like, yep, I'm out of my mind. Because I knew that I was going to get so much information. Something inside me told me, if the scale doesn't change, I'm still going to leave out of this challenge better than when I came in, because I got information. I have power now behind me. And so when I jumped in and joined, you set up the macros for me, and it came back to the macros of what I had set up originally in my app I had. And I thought, back up to that 150 grams. Are you kidding me? But I thought, I'm committing to be all in. What's going to happen to me in 3 weeks if I stick to what she's giving me? I mean, what's the worst that could happen? I could get fatter. Big deal. Who cares? I've been through enough of these to know that it's not going to matter. And in the first week, I lost, the scale went down, and I was like, oh my God. I had to actually jump on it a couple times, because I just thought, oh, the batteries are low on my scale. I need to replace it. It must be, I mean, all the stuff you tell your stuff, because you can't believe what you're seeing.
And so how long didn't the scale move? Because you said it'd been a few years since the number really went down, right?
My daughter is 16 and it has not moved since before I gave birth to her, if that gives you any idea.
That's crazy. So even with all of these different diets you tried, it just was stuck?
I never moved. Never. Again, my inches lost. I lost some body fat. Things changed, but the scale never moved.
That's crazy, because I was always frustrated. I could get the scale to move. Although after my first pregnancy, it just kept moving back and forth, the same 3 pounds. So I've definitely been there, but I can't imagine trying so hard for that long and not seeing the scale drop at all.
Well, if it dropped, it would be like what you said, 3 or 4 pounds. Even with doing the HCG injections, it was just a couple of pounds, but that was for a year. And then I was afraid to get off the stuff, because then I thought, oh my God, if I have to work this hard for 3 pounds,
yeah,
what's going to happen when I stop doing this?
Yeah, and I can tell you why it didn't move for so long with all your attempts is that a lot of times when you come from a place of restriction, and I've definitely been there, I restricted my whole life, your body needs to feel safe. It needs to know that more fat is coming in, more nutrients are coming in, and until it knows that those are coming in, it's not going to let go of stored body fat. And that's why when people just keep trying to cut their calories lower, they keep trying to cut their fat lower, it's never going to work long term, because their bodies will never feel safe enough to let the fat go. And so you said that you hadn't really seen the scale drop in 16, 17 years. I think if I remember right, you lost something like 9 pounds in the first 2 weeks of the challenge.
Yeah, that was just madness.
Awesome. I mean, I do secretly like when people go to other diet gurus, not that I'm a guru, but when they go to other, like you said, you went to bariatric doctors and other programs, and when it doesn't work for them and then they come to me and they see results, I kind of secretly like that, but I probably shouldn't.
No, because it's a good feeling. It's a good feeling to know that people are actually going to be feeling good about themselves. And I understand that. I understand you getting excited about that, and understanding that there is some simplicity to it if people would just stop and give it a minute and see if it works.
Yeah. So obviously, you were already kind of eating keto, or you were eating keto before the challenge, but you just weren't seeing the results, which that's why a lot of people join the challenge, because they tried out keto. It's just not going the way that they want it to. So they want to shake it up a little. So I think the challenge is perfect for that. Um, where was my question? Oh, so when you joined the keto challenge, were you experiencing any kind of digestive issues? Because we are Chat the Fat podcast and we talk about digestion here. So I have to ask.
Yeah. So digestion, yeah. I didn't know that I had digestive issues, to be really honest, until I took the course, because I was one of these people that had bowel movements once, maybe twice a week, and I thought that that was normal because that was pretty much most of my life.
Yeah.
And when I would share that with people, they would just be like, "Oh my God!" And I mean, it's not necessarily something that you sit around and talk about, right?
Yeah.
So to actually sit and talk about it and find out that this is not the way it's supposed to be, and your digestive course is hands down amazing. I've watched it several times, and I know that I'll watch it again in the future because there's just so much information, and to be able to understand how internally how everything operates is incredible, and has been very, very beneficial to get that area of my life moving in the right direction as well.
Yeah. And so just like you, because I took the digestion course back in 2014, so it's been around a while, but the information obviously is still great. And I didn't know that I had digestive issues either. I found TC's book, Kick Your Fat in the Nuts, and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll read this later because it was free. And people don't always value free the way that they should, but value that book because it's a great book. And so I started reading through it, and like everything, I'm like, this is me. Wait, this is me. And, the whole book was me. And here's me, it's a book about digestion basically. And I didn't think I had any digestive problems, but I obviously did. And, that's why I have been able to have so much success and finally keep the weight off, because I finally did the work to improve those. And back then, like, no one else was really talking about it. I think with keto, more and more people, especially like the nutritional therapists, they learn all that. So there are more people talking about it now, which is great because that means more people will get results. But back then, I had studied nutrition information since I was like 12 years old and never heard of it. Never even thought that it could be an issue.
No, in fact, let's take out your gallbladder, because that's the problem, rather than fixing your digestion.
Oh yeah, I've tried to talk a family member out of that surgery ever since I learned about it, and they don't listen. And then I hear from them years later that they're just still struggling and they don't know what to do. And, not to say that it's too late, because there's still workarounds. But unfortunately, they'll just never be the same again after that. And they just have to work a little bit harder to hit their goals and improve their health. So if anyone's listening, KellyRae is a member of Keto Decoded, but you do not have to be a member of Keto Decoded to take that course. All you have to do is go to kickitnaturally.com/keto digest. And it is 50 cents. And that's because they were getting a lot of spam registrations and they wanted that to end. So 50 cents, I'd say it's worth it for the course. Would you?
Oh, absolutely. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's actually a priceless course. This is something they should teach in schools, actually, because it has to start at a very earlier age, I think it absolutely should be something that be part of our education system.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even I had a nurse contact me on Instagram, and I didn't know she was a nurse when I started talking to her, but I, pointed her to the digestion course, and she's like, I'm a nurse and I deal with this stuff every day, and you have taught me more in 10 minutes than I've learned throughout my career with this and
Yeah.
doctors every day. So, it's sad that this information isn't out there more, but thankfully people like you who are taking it and telling other people about it will get that information out there so people can learn it. And
Yeah.
I think part of it is, and I talk about this, a lot of people, when I first started coaching them, they don't want to worry about their digestion. They just want to get keto macros and get it figured out. And unfortunately, it doesn't always work that way. For some people, it does. And that's great when you could just follow keto macros and you're fixed up and you lose the weight you want. But a lot of people have spent a long time following these diets that we've both followed, and it really screws up your digestion. So getting that in place and getting it fixed just makes everything so much easier.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, just to not feel bloated and uncomfortable and tired anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really helpful because you learn so much. And yes, there are supplements involved for some people. Not everyone needs to take it, but there's just like really easy fixes you can do that make you feel so much better. And when you feel better on your diet, then you're going to stick with it longer.
Right.
Hopefully turn it into your lifestyle, which is what we're all about. So when you jumped into the keto challenge, were you kind of looking at keto as like like a quick fix? Maybe I could lose some weight and then go back to the standard American diet, or were you looking more for a lifestyle?
No, I was looking more for a lifestyle of how can I live healthy? How can I live vibrant? How can I live optimally? I mean, I'm not getting any younger, and I don't want to be one of these people that are in my 70s, 80s, and 90s on all kinds of medications, not being able to move because I didn't do things to help my body along the way.
Yeah.
And I have a daughter that I need to be able to teach her how to eat well as well.
Has her diet changed as a result of you following keto?
No, it's interesting because I started her off that way when she started, like, I was feeding her healthy foods and fats and that, and being very mindful for her.
Yeah.
I wanted to do different because I was raised with a lot of candy, sugar, cookies, all of the really yummy treats that we like. And I didn't want to do that with her. I wanted her to, I guess, have a fighting chance that she didn't have to go down the same road that I did.
Yeah. But so she was already eating that way and she continues, or is she eating standard American food?
No, she's doing more of, I'd say, a lower carb. She's not doing keto, but she is doing lower carb. And the calorie thing is not a thing. I'm not getting her all crazed out on that because
Yeah.
that was an awful way to go.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Even like, I don't think most teenagers need to be keto. Like maybe if they have health problems, then it's a great option for them. But I think low carb, even just following that is really great. I have two little boys, a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, and the 3-year-old is totally my keto baby. He calls my food keto. Like I have these little coconut crisps, they're little coconut lime crisps, and he asks for more keto because that's just what he thinks it's called. But the other one is definitely a carboholic. So I'm working with him slowly trying to change that. So hopefully I can get him on the right track because I definitely don't want him to follow it in my dieting footsteps. But I'll never like say, oh, you need to finish all the food on your plate, or,
Yeah.
I don't try to force that because that's what happened to me. And partly what screwed me up for many years to come.
Well, and like with my daughter, because she was introduced to just vegetables first and then proteins and fats and some fruit, she hasn't had half the candy in the world because she has no desire for it. She doesn't like sweets. She doesn't go all out on breads and stuff like that, which is awesome. I mean, I know there's more to it than that, but she's already got that step up that she's not sitting eating fast food and binging out on ice cream every night and those kinds of things, which I'm really happy and she's eating whole foods, which is, a big thing. There's so many conveniences out there that it's real easy just to grab and go. Whereas we're eating whole foods in the house, which is, I think, a good thing as well.
Yeah. And that's kind of the same thing I follow. So back to the challenge. Now, I gave you the macros, which you said at first you were a little shocked by because they were pretty similar to the app that you had. So I give you these macros. I do give the challenger some meal plans to follow, but they're options. Like everything's optional. I want people to eat what they want to eat. How did you know what kind of meals to make in order to hit your macros? Were you just following along with those meal plans, or were you able to figure it out on your own?
So the meal plans and the recipes were amazing because I could make all of them. Some of those things just require so many appliances, so many other variables that I'm like, I ain't got time for that. I'm a single mom working a couple jobs. Forget that nonsense. So, and the way the meal plans and how you had them structured out, I mean, you gave like a week worth a menu of breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks. So I took that and I took what I usually eat in my own day and was able then to track in that tracker to meet the macros the way they were lined up. So those meals were delicious, and they also helped me to figure out how to make that for myself with the foods that I like to eat.
Yeah, and I think you bring up an important point. And so I have my book on Amazon, The Lazy Keto Gourmet, and I don't read the bad reviews anymore just because it makes me have a bad day. But back when I was reading all the reviews, there was someone who said like, oh, this is too simple, or these recipes are too simple. And like, honestly, I think that's why the book actually did so well, because there's so many keto books out there that's like calls for these crazy ingredients that you've never heard of. And they want you to follow all these complicated instructions. So if you're doing that, like, when do you have time to live life? So, I mean,
Right.
I occasionally will make one of these more complicated recipes, but basically any recipes that I put on my website or that I put in any of my books are simple because it's the way that I eat. And I think that's the way people are going to stick with it, is when they make it really easy.
Yeah, well, when you can have a 3-ingredient thing to make something absolutely delicious, who wouldn't want to do that?
Yeah. You're talking about, I posted my 3-ingredient fudge in our Keto Decoder group today, which I actually have some chilling in the fridge. I'm going to eat that for breakfast once we're done here.
Nice.
So funny. Okay, so when you started the challenge, was that more, like a lot more than you were accustomed to eating while you were on a diet in your previous dieting attempts, or?
It was interesting because I don't know. Yeah, because I was having to take in more calories.
Yeah, and a lot of people get confused because I always say, like, you need to eat more and you need to exercise less in order to find success. And people think I'm lying, but it's not. That's what worked for me, and that's what worked for a lot of people, especially people like us who come from a place of restriction for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah, so that was a little bit weird. I'm going to say weird because when you've had countless decades of not doing that, it's weird to do something different than what you're used to.
So it's been a few months. The Keto Challenge was back in September, and we are recording this mid-December. Are you still sticking to the same macros, and how's that going for you?
Yeah, I'm still in the same macros because I keep getting results. I don't know if I'm ever supposed to change that. And if I do, of course, I'll consult with you. But right now, there's days where I fall shy of meeting my carb macros, which of course doesn't bother me. But I'm making sure that I'm not just I'm making sure that I'm hitting them. That's my goal until I'm told otherwise. That, and I'm doing it now. I finally figured out what satiation feels like, as opposed to being full or that uncomfortable stuffed feeling. Because honestly, I know you've talked about that, like just eat until you're satiated. And I'm like, but I don't even know what that is. And part of that is because I had to learn how to listen to my body, which when you're so used to tracking calories and that's outside of you even paying attention to what's going on inside your body.
Yeah, I think that's actually pretty common. So I've always been a calorie counter. I'm not any longer. I haven't been for a few years, which is kind of crazy to say because I've counted calories probably since I was like 12 years old. So a good 20 plus years. And I also struggled with my weight for those 20 years. So just a little more proof that it doesn't really work like that. But when you tell someone to eat to satiation, a lot of people are so used to being so deprived that they don't really understand what that even means. and their hormones are so messed up from eating all the carbs and, not really eating in the right balance, that it's hard to eat to satiation because our hormones are still adjusting to a normal place. And so that's actually one of the reasons that I started calculating the macros for the challenges, because the first one or two that I did, I didn't do that. And people were getting okay results. And, I really wanted them to get the best results that they could. And so one of the challengers messaged me and she's like, I'm following this, but I'm not getting results. So I asked her to send me her food log just so I could look it over. And even though I tell people eat more calories, eat more fat, she was still only eating like 12 or 1,300 calories a day. And this was someone who probably should have been eating closer to 1,800 just based on her info. And so that just kind of like gave me an aha moment that just saying eat to satiation or eat more doesn't really mean much. So even though it does take a lot more work on my end, I'm happy to do it because I want people to come in the challenge. I want people to get results. And I don't believe based on eating calories for the rest of your life. So when people get their macro analysis back, it does have a calorie range, but that's just so they can get to the place where you are, where you start out with these macros, where you learn how to eat on these macros, you see where you should be to feel satiated, and then it just kind of starts to naturally take over. So I think, once you've been doing this for a while, it just comes natural. You don't really need to pay attention to calories for sure, but eventually you won't even need to pay attention to carbs or fat because you'll feel it. So I'm glad that you were able to get those personalized macros, and I'm glad it helped you figure out where you felt satiated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that was my little challenge because there are it actually kind of shocked me a little when you said that the carb calculator the macro calculator that you originally followed put you at the same place that I did, because from what I've seen, when people go to these generic keto calculators, they usually calculate them way too low. They usually put people at that 90 or 100 grams of fat. And so people think they're following it right, and they're following what they're told. But a lot of those calculators out there must be made by the same people who are telling people it's calories in versus calories out, because that's really all they're doing. They're just having you eat really low calorie so you get results. And unfortunately, the results that you're getting when you're eating really low calorie don't last very long, because eventually you're not going to be able to go any lower. You're going to be hungry and you're going to say keto did not work for you.
Well, and the other thing too, I noticed about some of these apps too is, and I know that you've talked about this in other podcasts that you've done, was the difference between total carbs and net carbs.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the other thing too that could be out with some of these apps, is maybe they're just doing net carbs when they should be doing total carbs.
Yeah, most of them do have the option to do total or net, but some of them will just automatically put it on net. So people think that they're eating only 20 carbs a day, but when they're looking at total, it could be like 80, like who knows? And
Yeah.
people are subtracting out the sugar alcohols, which they do count. For most people, they do count. They're subtracting out like weird fibers, weird man-made fibers that you probably shouldn't even really be eating in the first place if you want results. For some people, it's okay to subtract out real fiber, but I just like the total carb approach, because then you don't necessarily have to restrict yourself to 20. Some people can go up to 30. Some people can go even higher. I know I do. But at least you know your total carbs that you could take in, and you're not like trying to do math equations and guess and figure it out.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Keep it simple. I don't want to have to sit and calculate all this garbage out. I just want to eat and go on with my life.
Yeah, I feel like net carbs is just kind of another marketing ploy, like for food companies to mark on their labels, this only has 3 net carbs when it really has 20.
Right.
And it's working. It's tricking a lot of people. I know I fell for it when I first started, probably up until after I was doing the fat loss course from Kick It Naturally. For a while, I was still cheating. And then, eventually I came to the conclusion that eating mostly real food just made me feel better. So I stopped it at some point. I don't remember when. So obviously the Keto Challenge was a while ago, and then you decided to join Keto Decoded afterwards for the continued support. But can you remember back, like, how did joining the Keto Challenge impact your life?
Well, I saw the number on the scale go down. And I know for some people that, I'm not trying to advocate weight loss because I know it's fat loss and it's, being optimally healthy. But for somebody who has not seen that happen, I didn't think that there was anything out there. I was still open-minded enough to try because I just know how I want to feel in my body. So that's why I jumped on, because I just knew I was going to get a lot of information. I knew I'd get some support. And then when it actually happened, I mean, I kind of blew my own damn mind, just to be honest with you. Then I was like, oh my gosh. And to see it continue to happen, of course, just makes me feel better and better every day. And who wouldn't want to keep doing what's making them feel better every day?
Yeah, that's awesome. So we just had our spoiler alert that you did decide to move on to Keto Decoded, which some people join the challenge and they get the information and then they want to go on their way, and that's awesome. I hope that they continue having success. But you decided that you wanted to move on to Keto Decoded to get some of the daily support that we have in the support group. And then, of course, you also have access to all the courses we've talked about on the podcast, like the fat loss course, Keto Decoded, and fasting decoded. We have a couple of cooking courses in there. So I'm kind of like Oprah right now. I'm having my moment. Everyone gets a course when they join. All of the courses. But I keep mentioning Oprah. So it's obviously a lot of information that we put together. I know it's helpful because the 12-week fat loss course that's in there was actually what really helped me. I've read all the books, but like taking that course, just something about taking that information in a different way, it really linked some stuff together that, changed it for me. So that did help. And then, of course, we added on all these other courses. So there's a ton of info in there. And we already kind of talked about there's so much free information you could get about keto. What would you say is the difference? Like, have these courses changed the game for you at all?
Yeah. So first, the digestive course is the first thing you take when you get in here, which was phenomenal. I've gotten a lot of free stuff over my life, and I understand that a lot of businesses offer free things in order for you to come be a part of their course or their program. I mean, I've done this long enough myself to know. I've done some of it in my own business. The thing is the information that you're giving isn't just free in the program. There's so much depth and wealth of information that it goes beyond anything free anybody would give. To give out something free would be, I don't know, here's how you could go track your macros or eat this way, a little checklist of things to look for. Now, you guys are going extremely deep into how to live this as a lifestyle for the rest of your life. And that's what I love about all of the stuff that's in this membership, along with the people that are in here. Look, I ended at the end of September, and I knew I was getting ready to enter into the holiday season food frenzy, right?
Yep.
There was no way I was wanting to get off track because I'd already received so much success in just 3 weeks that I knew I needed to stay in this. I needed the support. I needed somewhere to go if I was going to have one of my days of poor me, whatever. And it could be in a place that was safe. And it was going to be in a place that was also going to be like, hey, girl, get back up and go. You got this. And that's what I love about this group.
That's awesome. And so now that you are in there and you have all the support and all the knowledge, a lot of people want to hear about what does your typical day look like?
So I faithfully track my food still. I mean, I know it's only been 3 months, but it's something I do every single morning when I get up and have a black cup of coffee is I put in my food for the day of what I'm going to do. And I do that for a reason, because then I don't have to think about it for the rest of my day. I get to just live my life. I also plan out on the weekends what the next week is going to look food wise. So I go get my food. So there's no temptation during the week if my work or daughter's schedule kind of throws me off. I have all of those things in place to keep me from getting off track. And honestly, being very active in the group. It's super, super important, I think, to be active and to participate, because that's going to help you sustain what it is that you're wanting to do for a longer period of time. It's real easy to have a bad day and kind of fall off the wagon. And then because of guilt or shame, you start backing away from the one place that could actually help you to move forward.
Yeah, I agree. And I love it when people are active, because I think those are the people who see the best results. And I do get a little bit sad when someone's really active and then all of a sudden I don't hear from them for a little while, because, you know, I've been there before where you're all about something, you want to get results, and something happens and then you just kind of fall off the wagon. So I kind of feel like I know people are busy, especially this time of year, but kind of feel like when I stop hearing from people that maybe they've fallen off, and I want them to come back. I can help them get back on track.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So those are the good things about keto. Do you have any obstacles when you're following keto?
No, I mean, some of the other good things about keto, honestly, in the way that you teach it, because I know you're more of a whole foods approach person. I've gotten off artificial sweeteners, which, from being a girl who grew up on sugar, you know, that kind of addiction, I guess, then the transition over when you do the whole low calorie dieting thing is, well, then everything's going to be, you know, sweet and low aspartame and whatever other sweeteners, artificial sweeteners you can use. So within this 3 months, I've also gotten completely off those as well, which has been amazing. And my food still tastes delicious. So yay. It's saving me money. I mean, I can go to Costco and stock up on my stuff and it'll hold me the whole entire month. Whereas before it was like I was shopping weekly and it seemed like it cost me a lot more money. I don't think it seemed like it did cost me more money. So those are the things. So where I may have struggled a few times during this time period that I've been doing this is more of going into behavioral situations. Like when you hang out with certain friends and you guys are used to eating certain foods together, maybe you every Friday night get together and you eat pizza and binge watch Netflix, just giving as an example. To now not want to go to your friends, I don't want to not see my friend, but then having to deal with the whole, you know, delicious pizza component of how do you break that habit? How do you break that pattern? And so finding ways to make my own pizza without doing the whole crust thing has allowed me to not have to shy away from my friends or my family, because I don't want them to know, oh, you can't have this because you're on keto. I want them to know that my life is still the same as theirs in a way, just that I might eat a little bit different.
Yeah, and I think that's important, because a lot of people do isolate themselves when they go on a diet because they don't want that temptation. The temptation will lead them to going off of their plan. So I think it is really very important to find ways to, you know, still show up at parties, maybe just bring your own keto options. And I'll be honest, like any parties I go to where I bring keto options, even if my friends and family aren't keto, that's always the first food to go. That's what oh, sorry, I'm falling. It's so good that I'm falling off my chair. No, but the keto options are always the first ones to go. Like I've had birthday parties for my son, and I'll do like half keto, half carb, just because I don't want to, you know, leave anyone out. And there's always a bunch of bread left over. What am I supposed to do with that?
Right? Take it to the park and feed it to the ducks.
Well, they don't want you feeding the ducks bread because it makes them fat. I'm serious. There's like,
We'll make sure that the ducks are healthy, but standard American diet's still for the people.
yeah, they caught on for the ducks, but they don't care about the people. All right, so I do have an exciting announcement, especially for those who are a part of our Keto Decoded membership. Sorry if you are not, but you can join. So the last time we did or the last few times we've done the keto challenge, I've always separated the groups, and it's really hard for me. It's just a lot of work, that I put a lot of time in there. I try to stay in there and get everyone supported and motivated so they get the best results. So this time around, we're actually combining the Keto Challenge into the Keto Decoded support group. So that means for everyone who is a member of Keto Decoded, they're basically getting to participate in the Keto Challenge for free. So that's awesome. If you didn't know that already, now you know.
Dang.
That. So you get to be a part of it for free. But let's just pretend for a minute that you weren't a part of Keto Decoded, do you think the challenge was worth it? Like, would you sign back up now that it's coming back?
Yeah, absolutely. One, because the wealth of information that you share in there. I mean, the other thing I loved about the challenge too is people ask some really good questions. I know that's kind of part of some of the things that just being able to ask questions and knowing that I don't have all of the questions because I may not know what I need to ask. Other people in the challenge will ask the question. You're like, oh my God, that's a brilliant question. And you, again, anybody that's been in these can verify what I'm saying is you give a lot of information that you can tell is experienced personally by you, and also that you've done a lot of research behind. You're not just throwing something out there to people.
Yeah, and I'm really excited. I'm glad that you said that because I do put a lot of time and love into it. And when I sent out an email recently that it is coming back, and in case you're listening and you haven't caught on yet, the Keto Challenge is coming back. I think signups are in about a week by the time this airs. So I sent out an email recently just letting people know that I'm getting ready for it. And one of my good friends who I used to help out for free all the time, I have a few friends that I've helped out for free. And when I was helping them for free, they never got results. So when the Keto Challenge came around, a few of them wanted to join, and I made them pay just like I made everyone else pay because it is a challenge with a prize. The last time our first place prize was $500. So I want to keep it fair. Like, I'm not giving my friends any favoritism. I want to make sure that they pay too in case they win the prize money. So anyway, so I had a few friends join, and I'm really glad I made them pay because this time around, they all got amazing results. So, and like I said, I've been helping these friends out for a long time and they keep coming back. They're not getting the results, but like this last challenge, one of those friends or two of those friends came in second and third place when it came to weight loss. So one lost 14 pounds, one lost 13 pounds during 3 weeks. And then the other friend, she placed fifth when it came to percentage of weight loss with 5.15% of her body weight lost. And so my whole point to this story, besides just amazing you with these numbers, is when I sent out the email that the challenge is coming back, she was actually the first person to reply to say, sign me back up, I'm ready to go. So when you have friends that you're making pay to get in, when they want back in, you know that it's a good challenge. So I'm really...
It is, and you know what, quite honestly, people need to have some skin in the game. You know, if you're putting some skin in the game, then you're more up to show up for yourself.
Yeah, there's definitely, so I run in a lot of business circles, like business courses, and there's a saying that they like to pass around that says, those who pay attention. And, it's one of those woo-woo business things, but it's actually really true. And I've noticed that, the courses that I've paid for versus the courses that I've got for free, some of those you just like let them sit in your email and you don't really pay attention to them. But the ones that you pay for, like if you're paying a lot of money and some of those courses are a lot of money, you better dig in and you better get the work done and you better get results, because otherwise you're just wasting your money.
Yeah, right. All of a sudden now you find the time to do the course.
Yeah. So this is for all my friends listening. If you think you're getting in for free, you're not.
Right, because what kind of coach would you be? You wouldn't be doing them a favor.
Yeah, I feel like I did them a disservice when I was giving them all that free advice because they didn't do anything with it. And then I would get frustrated or a little sad that they weren't seeing the results. So I'm happy now. Some of them, like one of the podcasts, I read a review from one of my friends who was in, and she really touched my heart because she said it just completely changed her life. Even though I had been nagging her for years for her health issues, finally getting her into the challenge, talking her into joining it with her husband. And she said that it really changed everything for her. Like yes, the weight loss is great. The 14 pounds she lost is great, but it's really changing her health and giving her new energy to play with her son. So it's things like that are the reason that I really do it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm getting all sappy here. I'm not a sappy person. So all right, now that I am ranting, do you have anything else you want to share about your keto lifestyle, or any advice for those who maybe are trying to get on board but haven't quite gotten there yet?
Uh, yeah. One, you need to have a reason why you want to do this. Unless you have a really big reason why, it's hard to stay on it long term. If I was just doing this because I wanted to lose 10 pounds, 15 pounds, then I would have stopped already because I would have already achieved that goal. To me, I have to have a reason that's bigger than that, that's bigger than me, something that's going to take me a while to strive for. And for me, it's optimal health so that I can age well and be vibrant for my daughter and for my own health. Two, I think it's super important that people get support. I mean, it's kind of like move past the days of it's not okay to ask for help, and get out of your shame, guilt way, and be a part of something that is really going to help you. This is different than going to Overeaters Anonymous and all we do is talk about food, or in the olden days of Weight Watchers where we just went and talked about food. We're in your group, we're not just talking about food. Yes, we also have some fun along the way too. But I think it's super important that people show up for other people and show up for themselves in order to sustainably do this for a long period of time. And make it something that you do daily. Like for me, like I say, I continue to log myself every single day. Even if I eat the same thing every day, I don't care. I still log it so that I have more room in my life to do things that aren't surrounded around food and whether or not I'm going to be losing or not. I think those are the three important things for people to do.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, you're in the group almost every day, and you're definitely a leader in there, and you cheer other people on. So we're grateful to have you and very thankful that you're there, and also happy that you're still getting results, because even once the challenge ended, your results didn't end. I've seen that we have an accountability club where you send me your weight, and I've seen that you've stayed pretty consistent, which is what we like to see.
Yeah, I actually went through my, because I kept my beginning thing and up until when we started in December. So down 11 inches and just over 16 pounds, 16.2, I think. I got to get that 0.2 in there.
Of course. That's
But
awesome.
I mean, that's like a pound a year if I look back over my 16 years. That's pretty awesome.
And you did it in just a few short months. Now,
Exactly.
and I think you said that people have been noticing as well, right?
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. This is why I think it's important to be part of a support group, is when friends and family and that notice, sometimes they don't know what to say. They don't know if they want to say, hey, wow, you look really good, because then they're afraid you might take it up. Why? Did I look really bad before? Or, wow, you lost a lot of weight. Was I really fat before? So I think people kind of tend to shy away from saying things too, because they don't know how you'll take that.
I think my friends and family are all different because they all want to know what I did.
Well, yeah, I mean, 100 pounds, if I lost 100 pounds, people might start asking me too. I'm still in that phase where they're not necessarily asking me how I'm doing it. Or I do say that I'm doing keto. And again, I think because there's so much information, they're not really sure what that means. And they think that just means you eat bacon every day. And not that bacon's bad, but I do eat a lot more than just bacon.
That is true. So that's awesome. So did you have anything else to add before we wrap this up?
Just thank you to you, because I do know the work that you put into this. I know you're a mom and a wife, and you have a life outside of this internet world, but I'm so thankful that you're here, and I'm so thankful that you're doing what you're doing to make a difference, because you've definitely made a difference in my life, and I appreciate you.
That's so nice. Thank you. Well, people probably will connect with your story and they might want to find you. Is there anywhere that they can connect with you?
They certainly can connect with me on Facebook and Instagram, because both of those places I'm in very, very regularly, because that's kind of how I run my business as well.
Okay. And where would they find you? Do you have a...
So for Instagram, I think it's KellyRae 2, the number 2, U. And then for Facebook, it's KellyRae Brown. And then I have groups and pages that they can launch off of that if they're interested, for doing mindset work, working on, their emotional components, maybe of how they feel about their body, and that, so that they could help what you do to get them on their food track part right and healthy eating.
Yeah, mindset is definitely so important. So definitely, what's the name of your group in case they want to look that up?
So it's Strength in Sensitivity is my group, as my page, my business page, and my group is Be Your Own Hero.
Okay, awesome. Yeah,
and that's on Facebook.
I think you'll definitely be getting some new members, because mindset, when it comes to weight loss, might be one of the most important things. TC, if you were on here today, he would say it's digestion, and I do agree, but the mindset is also extremely important.
Yeah, they all go hand in hand. And it's like, if you can't get out of your own emotional way, like I shared earlier about, how I felt about my own physical body, how could I ever have lost the weight that I'm losing now if I was continually hating my body?
Yeah.
You can't. You have to, there has to be, you could do it, but it's not going to be sustainable.
That's true. All right. Well, speaking of a mom, I have to go run and get my preschooler. So great talking to you. And
thank you.
See you soon in the group.
Okay. Take care.
Okay. We can end it. Yeah, that was great. But thanks so much for coming on. It was a great interview.
Oh my gosh. That was so much fun.
Yeah. So we're recorded like all the way through February, but this one we wanted to get out before the challenge. So I think, I want to say this is coming out maybe on New Year's Eve or.
Oh, wow.
Before the end of December.
Because the challenge starts what, the 11th?
I'm starting registration on the 5th, and then it's going to start on the 13th.
Okay.
So give people time to follow up their New Year's resolutions.
Oh, yeah, right? Yeah, so then the gym will be crowded for the first couple of weeks, and then we'll go back to normal again.
Yeah, I know. I think this is my first year. I go to Orange Theory, and this is my first year there for New Year's, so we'll see how that goes.
Oh my God, yesterday your little video that you did about your tips, and you were talking about the instructor, I was laughing so hard.
Well, I was nervous to put that up because I am friends with a few coaches, but not that one because he's new. So I'm like, oh, it's not a big deal. And the day when I put that up yesterday, I got a new follower on Instagram. So I was chatting with her, and she's one of the other coaches that I usually take her class. I'm like, okay, don't watch my video. And I have a feeling one of the other coaches told her about my video.
Well, the other thing that cracked me up is what your caption that you wrote, like, please tell me if this is working because I can't stand having like crickets, and I know I'm paraphrasing what you're saying. I can't tell you how many times I do live videos and I literally get so uncomfortable because I feel like it's crickets. It's like, I'm sorry, my ego needs a little like button or something.
Yeah, it's hard with those groups. Like I think there's a lot of lurkers. A lot of people do watch, so kind of just have to keep putting it up there and hope that people are getting the right information.
Yeah, right. And they do. Later they'll say something to you and you're like, well, that was 6 months ago. I didn't even know you were paying attention.
Yeah, so keep going even if there's crickets. They're usually
right, exactly.
All right, well, I gotta run to go get my son. He gets mad at me if he's the last one there.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
All right, good talking to you.
Okay, you too. Take care.
Bye.
Whether you're brand new to keto or just looking to move past roadblocks, join us for our next Troubleshooting Keto Master Workshop. Go to chatthefat.com/workshop to find upcoming dates and register for this totally free event. You just might find your missing piece of the puzzle. Until then, we'll see you next week on Chat the Fat.